Yeah.
Let's start. Just for recording purposes, I'll just say, what is the date? Is it 11th of May today? So it's 11th of May, and we are discussing the new architecture of Ethora engine. Yeah, Vinith, please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll start with the project structure first. Basically, the first initial file that we have all the whole app inside is this app.tsx, and from inside this we have all the navigation screens and stuffs. If you see here, we have some providers that we have wrapped outside the root stack component. So basically, root stack is the main navigation initial file, and we are wrapping this root stack with so we are wrapping this with the store provider. Store provider is basically mobx's store, so that all of the screens and files and functions, they are able to have access into the mobx store. We wrap it with this store provider, and then there is this native base provider. So native base is basically the UI library that we are going to use. So this currently has no configuration set. In future, we will be able to create theme and set a basic theme, standard theme, and provide those configuration in over here with the theme property. And
so native base we are going to use in the new architecture. We didn't use it in the previous one, right?
Yeah.
So that's a new thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Just please comment for me that what stuff is like new or changing, because I don't always remember how it was before.
So
okay, thanks.
Yeah, the main mobx is the one that we are using, which is new. And native base is another thing that is new. And one more change is the conversion of class components into functional components. So these three are the main changes that we have. So I'll jump into the navigation folder, which has the root stack folder. So root stack folder will basically decide whether the user has to be in login screen or in the other home screen, basically. So it will contain either the auth screen or either the whole home screen. These screens will have all of the screens that we will get once we log in. So we will start with the whole main chat screen. So if you see, we have a folder named screens. We've import all of the screen inside the respective files of navigation from the screens folder. So if you can see, these are the main screens that we have. And these screens will have the UI components and other logics inside it. So now if we start with the main login screen, we have this login screen. It will have these, if you see, this is a social button, which is a custom component that we have created. And I'll first explain how class component, we used to use class component and how it is different from functional component. So basically class component, as the name suggests, we have to use the class type and create the whole class object and its constructor. And this particular approach was a bit cumbersome. The readability and the code, the format of code was pretty dull, or maybe it was non-readable, and also it had some performance issues as compared to functional component. So, and one more good thing about functional components is that you can create small, simple functions and use it, which, like for example, in this example, we are using login screen. This is a functional component, and we are using it inside over here. See, so this particular component is taking login screen, which is a functional component, as its prop. So just a moment. Yeah. So so functional component, and syntactically, I'll show you how class component looks. I just maybe somewhere. So if you see here, this is how a basic class component can look. And another thing is that while using class components, we are using we are not able to use the hooks functionality of React, which is a new feature that pretty new feature that React has introduced. So hooks are basically, reactions. So like we know that React Native and React, basically the name it has from why the name React is because things in React Native reacts. So for example, any component mounting is so previously we used to have component did mount. So why component did mount? Basically any component, when it mounts, when it loads this particular function, component did mount, is getting called. So this is a reaction basically. So this is the basic principle with which React runs. So but the issue was that the component did mount other lifecycle methods, other reactive methods was not perfect. Like it had some performance issues, lots of performance issues, and so they introduced the concept of hooks, which we can use in functional component. So for example, this is a hook use effect. Basically use effect with no dependencies will say that whenever this particular component, that is the login screen in this case, this component is mounted, this should happen. So in this case, what is happening is it is configuring the Google sign-in configuration. So basically what I want is whenever just when the moment the login screen component gets mounted, I want that the configuration for Google sign-in is done before the UI is presented in front of the user. So this
so
is
you can say you can preload or do some asynchronous stuff with preload before.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, and this is pretty much more performant than the previous method with which we used to do. And another thing is that syntactically also it is improved. It is simple and readable in this way. Okay, so these are the screens. This is screen folder. It will have all the screens. And this is navigation folder. It will have all the navigation. And other screens is that, okay, this is Xmpp folder. This will have all the stanzas that we will be using. Stanza.ts will have all the stanzas that we will be using across the whole application. So this is separated because in this way we can, this is a good practice. In future, whenever we want to make any changes or add anything, we just have to add it inside this particular file, and we can grab it, import it anywhere inside the app. And this is some of the constants that we'll be using, because these constants are important because whenever any XMPP request is done, the XMPP responds and whenever we send any request, we have to send an ID so that we can identify with the same ID the response will have. So the response will also have the same ID. So in this way we can differentiate, okay, this is new subscriptions response, this is subscriptions response, or maybe this is invites response that we have received from Xmpp. So all these constants that we have defined, we will be using in stanza here. Let's see. So the ID will have new subscriptions as this particular string as its ID, and whenever any the place we have used the listener for Xmpp's response, we can use the same constant to differentiate it. Like for example, if it's subscribe, then it will be we can create the logic according to that. So this is
quick question. Quick question, Vinith.
Yeah.
So a bit tangential to this, but we know that in our engine and our product we use like some addition to Xmpp. So we have in our chats there are some elements like user ID and like user profile, which we need to include into Xmpp stanzas to make sure that our stuff works together, like the user profiles and the blockchain, transfers and stuff like that. So do we need, my question is, do we need to explain it somewhere in the comments section that some bits are different to like plain vanilla Xmpp, and like third-party developers, if they have to want to create their own stanzas, they need to follow this format? Or shall we describe this outside of the source code in the like documentation?
Yeah, this I haven't given it a thought actually. And Taras, I think I didn't quite get your questions. Like, are you asking if the stanzas that we are using, the syntax that we are using for the stanza, do we have to explain it like in comments?
We use like additional. We use additional stuff, which if we don't add it, our app might not even show it in those kind of messages. If we don't like add like user address, wallet, or profile and stuff like that, right? So I'm just thinking, do we need to make it like more explicit for like external developers, those kind of things, or not?
I think no, because like I mentioned, so for example, this particular function, if you see, is composing will have an extra data, that is what the wallet address of the user, the full name of the user.
So I was talking about this.
So, so if you see, if I'm going to use this particular function, for example, I'm going to use it over here, just to show you. Sorry, not here, over here. Is composing, was it right? Yeah. So I've imported this. So if you see, it already suggests what I want for this. I want a wallet address, I want chat JID, I want full name, and I want the Xmpp instance, the main Xmpp's instance. So this is what TypeScript helps us with. So for example, if you see here, when I'm defining this particular function, the properties, the arguments that it will be getting, it has a type definition here. So when I implement this type definition, wherever I'm going to use this particular function, it will automatically, with the help of IDE's detection IntelliSense, it will automatically suggest you what, it will help you with the arguments that it needs. So it is pretty much self-explanatory. One more thing that we can improve in this is that, which I am exactly not sure how. It's pretty simple. I haven't looked into it. Is whenever we are creating any list of functions, we can create a .d.ts file. So in .d.ts file, we can also add comments for each functions, and those comments will also be displayed over here. That is, for example, wallet address is something that you can receive it from any information that you want to show to the user or the developer, basically, who is going to use it. So chat JID is this, full name is full name of the user, or any information that we want to pass.
Okay, got it.
For example, is composing's definition, that is, is composing is used inside the chat screen which we want, so that typing animation can be retrieved for other users. So those type of definition we can add it. But I haven't added this particular .d.ts approach in this current architecture because I haven't looked into it. Maybe I think once we complete this, we can create that separate file, and we can make it possible.
I got it. Thank you, Vineet. That's useful to understand. So it's kind of self-documenting with if you follow the TypeScript and you document in the code the inputs and stuff, it makes it easier for, at least for those who work with our React Native code base. If somebody works outside of this stack, for example, they are writing a chatbot for our chat rooms, our platform, then we'll probably have to explain to them. But inside React Native, it seems it should be straightforward. Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Next folder would be components. So components basically are UI components. Basically anything that that is presented on the screen is a UI component, and we have separated it inside components folder, and each component folder will have separate folders according to the features, or maybe to be precise, or maybe similar to the screens. For example, account screen will have all the UI components related to account screen. This is not related to any screen, but this is a simple buttons folder that I have created. I haven't decided whether I have to put it inside this, or maybe when I complete it, maybe I can have a pretty better understanding exactly where I can put this social button text. I think it should be inside login folder, because social button is of login screen. So, but I'll decide it in future. So,
that
in
makes
short,
sense to move it to login, I guess.
Yeah. So similarly, chat will have all the components, UI components related to chat, main header, and similarly modals will have modals. Profile screen will have profile screen, and I'm not sure about this particular thing, because this is not a UI component. This is rel model. I think this should come inside config. Yeah, this should come inside config folder. That's what I think, because this has realms configuration and all those stuffs. So if you see here, realm will have these configurations are. This is basically tables. That is message table, chat list table, and transaction table, and those configuration are passed. And
my understanding that config folder will be mainly for the things which people need to change, so they need to modify between across different projects. Regarding the components, it sounds like almost stuff which is belonging to specific screens or business logic sections of the app is there. However, there might be some differences. It's a good question where to put those realm models. You have those helpers, or what would be the React Native way to put those kind of things? Should it be placed into helpers, or is helpers something different?
I think it's a configuration file. For example,
what do you configure there in the realm?
In realm, so see, first thing is that we have to create a schema. That is what type of table that you what is the table that you want. That is, what are the properties that it will have. You have to define it first, and then define all of the tables, and then you have to pass it and configure it. Once you configure it, if you can see, this is the configuration file. It will have the path for example, where the realm file should be saved. Okay, inside the application. So if I haven't mentioned any any particular path, only the name of the file, then it will I think it stores inside app data Android file. Never mind. Next is the schema property. It will have all the schema. That is basically, in short, it is tables that we have created. It will have all these properties. And then next is schema version. This is very important because, so for example, currently the schema version is 0. But for example, we have uploaded, we have our app inside the Play Store and App Store. But in future, for example, I have to change the timestamp or maybe add some extra property or maybe change existing property. Then the problem is that when the user has the app already downloaded and installed, when the user might update these changes, there will be an issue because according to the database that they have, it does not have these changes. So if I when new changes are made, I have to just upgrade the version of this particular realm, and rest of the things will be taken care by the realm library itself. So it will know that, okay, there is some changes, and so accordingly it will change the schema and inside the realm file that it has already created inside user's app. But this won't be an issue when the user is installing it for the first time or maybe even the second time. I mean, it won't work if we don't change this when the user has already installed it. So that's I hope it's pretty much understandable.
Can you open the chat lists quickly?
Chat lists
in the realm models. The another file.
Okay.
That's on the sidebar. There is chat lists under the realm models folder.
Yeah.
So you see the issue here, or my question, what I believe might be the case, is that you are thinking of config as something like as developers, so as building like something from scratch and configuring some schemas. But what I mean under config is something that external developers will need to change in most cases, or somebody even with like small experience. So we, if they're not supposed, I mean, normally in most cases, they will not be changing like schemas because they use the product as already developed by us, and in future by the open source, contributors, whoever wants to contribute to this project. But developers who just implement, who customize the project for specific business or like community needs, they are not supposed to change schemas. They can change them, but in most cases they will not need to change them. So when I mean like putting something into config, I mean putting there those things which somebody without much of programming experience and without like much extra time, just things that people will as expected to change pretty often. Like in every project they're supposed to change, like the name, the colors, and stuff like that, or the names of or addresses of the default chat rooms. So when you talk about like all schemas.ts, for example, I don't see something that every project will change there.
Yeah, sorry. One thing that I forgot to mention is that when I said config, it wasn't about the main docs config file, but this particular config folder that I have, because this will have simple configurations like these. For example, API services, it will have HTTP GET POST and all these stuff. And
so this config is under what folder? Under models?
This is inside SRC folder. Yeah, inside SRC folder.
Okay, we'll need to probably
maybe this. Yeah, maybe this is kind of a local config, or maybe I don't know.
This remains like a bit confusing because we had this confusion in the past. I was looking for config stuff in the config folder from the root, and the real config is sitting in the docs folder. So I think we'll need to change it so the real config starts to sit in the config, and what is currently in the config folder will probably need to move to something like initiation or whatever, call it something like different and more like technical term, like initializing, whatever. I don't know, like something like so people don't confuse it.
Yeah, I got it.
Is it like normal for React Native way to call this stuff config, or is it like?
No, I just I don't know, because I'll tell you why I thought this was all schemas is a configuration thing. I mean, it's because we are configuring this realm. That is, okay, I'm telling this realm that, okay, you have to create a realm file with this particular name. It will have these schemas, these table, and I put the all schemas inside this particular realm models folder, and also any any functions, that is any queries, that is basically realm is a database, so it will have queries. So any query related functions and all those stuffs inside the same folder itself, so that I don't have to fetch it somewhere else, because I know that, okay, I'm using all schemas, and I have configured it over here, and the realms related functions I will find it inside realm models itself. So basically, that's what I had in my mind. Maybe obviously we can change it, of course.
Well, it sounds to me that what is currently called config in the root folder should probably be called either schemas or initializers or something like that. So we'll need to come back to this issue. Okay, thank you.
Sure. One moment. Yeah, so this was basically components folder, and similarly, so config folder will have these type of information. So for example, this is routes constant. It will have the API's end routes. So we already know that what would be the main domain name domain that we are going to use for the API. Rest of the things, these things are the things that changes. So a constant file has been created, which will have all these information related to the endpoints of our API, Dapros's API. And I think it should be inside constants folder. We have a separate file with it. I mean, this file will have all the constants like that we are going to use. For example, if you see over here, this is a social login type that I created. So this has 3 types, that is Facebook, Google, or Apple. So why I created this is because, for example, if you see login screen, so sorry. Yeah, social button. So this is a component. This component we are using for all the 3. This same component we are using for all the 3 logins. That is, we haven't created a separate buttons. Rather than we have created one component and using the same component and passing different like respective property.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So this particular constant will decide, okay, what type of button is this? Is it Google button? Sorry, is it Google button, or is it Apple, or is it Facebook? Somewhere, yeah. So this is how we use constants in React. So next, so I think it's pretty much about folder structures. Next, maybe I'll explain about how TypeScript will help us. I think I have already mentioned a bit about it. That is how we can create separate components and reuse the same component, and it will also help when, as we have introduced TypeScript, it will suggest us what type of arguments that it needs, or props basically that it needs, and also the data type that it has. So for example, if there is a data type that, for example, a function has an argument that accepts number as its argument, But if I, by mistake, I pass any string, then right away, right then and there inside over here itself, it will throw me an error. For example, if I, let me just see. If you can see, this particular social button has a property named label, and it can have two types of data type. Either it can be undefined or it can be a string. But for example, if I pass a number here, right then and there, it will show me the error that, okay, this number is not assignable to type string. So what this, and for example, I'll tell you another, I'll show you one more thing. If I convert this file into a normal JS file, that is how it was previously in the previous architecture, you won't see the error. So and I won't be able to find when the code compiles and runs in build time. I will see an issue that is it accepts string type, but it has received number type. So this error, it won't show exactly which button or exactly where this has happened. So these types of issues will be avoided right then and there. I mean, even before you run the code. So yeah, and yeah. Okay, let me just save this. Yeah. So this is pretty much about TypeScript. And like I mentioned, if in future we can make it richer and richer. Currently, if you see type definitions, there are many arguments and objects that I haven't defined types for. But in future, whenever we will get the appropriate time, we can create. Let me just show you this file. So over here, I'll show you the syntax, how it's done. For example, this social button component has accepts props, which has data type of social button props. So this social button props is a custom data type that we have created here. So for example, we create it by using this particular syntax, that is interface. We create interface, we name anything that we want, and then we create whatever the argument that it accepts. Over here, if you see, label is, it has a question mark after it, which means that this is an optional thing. So basically, if the user from here does not send anything, does not send any label, then basically it is considered to be undefined, and we can say that, okay, if label exists, then it will show the label that user has submitted. If it does not, then we can show that a default button. So this makes a standard component, that is, even if you don't pass any value, any non-important value, that is not non-necessary value, it will have a standard default value that it will show. So
yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, so it will also avoid errors. I mean, all the error handling has been done, can be done with this. I mean, error handling in regards with this, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, great stuff.
Yeah.
Do we need to move through other stuff like helpers and
sure. So
to understand what is where and what new stuff we have?
Just close these. So helpers has these small functions that are required by many components or sub functions or anything. So these are small functions that accept some arguments, and it will return the exact same output. So it is not intelligent, basically, like how these functional components are. By intelligent, what I mean is it has these for example, okay, where was that? So what I mean by intelligent function is that it knows what it has to do, but a simple non-intelligent function, it will return what every time it will return the same thing if you pass the same argument. I mean, it has a fixed return thing. So helpers are kind of non-intelligent things. That is, it will accept a property, argument, and it will return accordingly. It will process something, and it will return the same output. It is not intelligent. That is, it won't have any use states or any hooks or anything. It is just simple functions. For example, so this is basically async storage. So async storage is a very low level, small realm. We can call it as a local storage. It is a local storage, but it is not like realm. Realm is basically database for mobile, but async storage basically it stores data even after your app is closed. So this particular helper file, what it does is, whenever anywhere in the file, anywhere in any functions, if I want to save anything that I want it even after I close the app and open it again, if I want it, then I have this particular function has been created. So what it will do is, it will accept the particular value that it wants to save, and it will save it. It will do that particular task itself. It doesn't know anything else. So these are small functional functions. So these are basically why it's called helper functions is because it helps other bigger functions, and it's basically very small things that we want to do. That is, for example, another
do you
example.
Remember, quick question, do you remember that we had the question or problem that we wanted to retain the local storage, the cache for the user every time, so we don't have to restore it? So has that been resolved? Because there was a question that we were not sure. Yeah,
the realm part, right? No, actually, I thought that I'll just first complete other screens that is left, and because currently it is not stopping anything like us currently, because if I keep resolving that, it would take more time, and I thought I will just initially just complete all the things that we have it in hand and resolve the bugs later. That is a realm thing. So I haven't resolved it yet.
So currently the realm helpers, are they storing creating the cache in the context of a specific user, or are they expecting that the user is going to be the same in the same device?
So are you asking about realm?
If I sign out and I sign in with a different account, what is going to happen to this realm cache?
So currently what's happening is, whenever we log out, all these data are removed. But I remember that you had mentioned that we need to have the chats that we store inside realm even after we log out, because the same user would be logging in most of the time. So we can do that.
Okay, to clarify, under logout, you mean user has explicitly logged out, or do you also mean when the session has expired? You call that logout as well?
No. That won't be logout. So so the refresh token, what will happen is, whenever the user, for example, I have closed this, and for example, I can assume that we have the session expired. So the app will, when the moment the app starts, and any API hit that it creates, it will respond with an error, 401 error. Once that error appears, what I'm going to do is I will get the refresh token that I have received from the login file, login API, and use it to get a new auth token and get it and use the API that failed when we were when the app opened. It would be sent to that. I mean, that auth token will be used to run that particular API which failed. So it is in short, it is not actually log out because user hasn't done it. It is something that session has expired, so we are doing it. So at that time, realm won't be deleted or anything.
And I think for that case, the recent improvement on the service side by Boris with JWT refresh has helped to improve things, right?
Yeah. Actually, I haven't implemented the refresh token yet. Today itself, I have asked Boris how is the mechanism, and he has mentioned me how it is done. I'll implement it too.
Maybe if Misha has already implemented it in another branch, you can look into that.
Okay, sure.
So yeah, so basically you're saying if the system throws me out or like the app is like inactive, so the my cache will not be deleted, right?
No, it won't be.
What happens, because in some cases I saw that I'm kind of signed out. So when I open the app, I have to sign in again. If I see the login, the sign-in screen again, that means that my cache has been deleted, right?
Yeah. I mean, basically what it means is your login user token has been deleted. So whenever the app opens, what it does is basically, I'll show you over here itself.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Well,
so basically it has user token. Yeah. So what it will do is the moment component is mounted, it will fetch any, if there are any token inside async storage, it will fetch it. And once it receives, if there are any user token, then the user token, this will check if there is any user token, then redirect to home stack. If no, then it will redirect to auth stack. That is the login screen, basically.
Right. So, okay, thank you, Vinith. So to clarify what we want to do, and I think what is not done yet, is when the user is signed out, so the token has been, I don't know, lost for some reason or something. So we still want to remember, okay, this is like this user, like Alice or Bob or something. And if the same user signs in again, we don't remove. So when we sign out, we don't delete all the cache. We keep most of it, and we can reuse it next time the user signs in. So we still need to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's useful to understand. Thank you. Shall we continue with the helpers?
Sure. So so this is basically So this is basically why helpers exist. That is any small functions that is required by any larger functions or any component files that we have. Then this we can use it. So this is.
Okay, for our purposes, we have, I'm just looking at our helpers like I described it in the public file on our wiki engine on the source code structure, that we have the helpers, which we have the download file logic _logic, Xmpp central, Xmpp stands the request messages, and then we discussed that in the new versions we work on the restructuring, download file logic, maybe do some improvements towards Xmpp central because it needs to be broken down, like mobx store for all information, stanza request message, and stuff like that. So could you talk a bit more about what changes we have from the previous version, like what new helpers you have introduced, and if any, and like what are the main changes are there like significant changes that I need to write down for the documentation purposes for helpers?
Yeah. Sure. I think I'll start with async storage get item. I think we don't have this in the previous one. I mean, it was there, but the current one is a better one. And next is this compare.
You explained those ones. That's like realm storage. Next one is compare transactions.
No, this is not realm. Okay, one moment. This is not realm. This is similar to realm. Realm is basically a database. This async storage we basically use to save two main things. One is the user's token, and another one is the initial data that we receive when user logs in. That is the user's data. So these two are saved in local async storage using async storage, and the rest of the things, that is chat room list, messages, and other stuffs, are saved inside realm database.
Okay.
Yeah.
So which you wanted to talk about compare transactions, or
compare transactions. This I think was created by Mike, I guess, and this is basically we are using this particular function to the transaction list that we have. Okay, I'll show you over here itself.
Just give me like a quick high level. I will just write a few words what that is, and we don't need to go into very detail about each of them. Just few words is enough.
Yeah. So this particular will decide whether to show date header over here or not. That is, if you see here 8 May 2022, it shows over here. So it doesn't show in this particular list item because it shouldn't, because it's the same date. And if it's another date, then it will show a header or not. So, yeah. So
my question is, should helpers be named or placed into folders in relation to what screens or business logic sections they are used with? Because, for example, if we know that this helpers is mainly used in the transactions or profile screen, would it be easier for developers to understand if we put them? Okay.
Yes, cool. It would be, because right from here, I think you won't be able to know exactly where this is used. For example, compare transaction days. I know that date. I know that it is used in transaction, but you don't know. So obviously, it will help, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
This is also created by Mike. What this does is, whenever we receive any Xmpp's response regarding messages, we create object and get all the details, respective details that we have from the Xmpp's data, and we create an object of that. So this is done frequently. So rather than doing it frequently, we can create a helper like it is created over here, and create that object and return it wherever we require it.
Okay. So this probably can be moved into like chat folder.
Yeah.
Okay. Format bytes.
Format date. I think format. I'm not sure about format bytes. This is done by Mike itself, I guess. This is related to
we can ask Misha if he has comments about what this does, because I just need to write down a few words about what this does. Format bytes and format date, Misha.
Yeah, as I know, we when we like receiving image or video from the server, there are it comes like in terms of bytes, and we need to like make a decision: is this 1 megabyte, 1 kilobyte, or 1?
Right. So it's just for formatting the numbers, like by like the size and the calendar numbers, dates. Okay. So formatting purposes. Is this used mainly for transaction screen or for something else as well, for chat screen as well?
I think this is in. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is. I think this is for media files that we use inside chat screen.
File attachments, right?
File attachment.
Is it the same from your side, file attachments?
Yeah.
Okay, I write down that this is for chat folder then. Chat file attachments. Okay, thank you. Let's go on. By the way, regarding the timing, guys, so I have more time. If anybody needs to drop off, please feel free to drop off. I think we'll need like at least half an hour more to go through the rest. So let's continue, but if anybody needs to drop off, do that. Okay, Vinicius, let's continue.
Yeah, sure. So next is open chat from chat link. This was previously it was used inside one of the component files. Now it is separated and put inside help us folder. So basically what it does is whenever any chat link is pressed, it will decide, okay, which exactly chat room we have to enter.
So that works for QR codes and short links, right?
Right.
QR codes and short links. Parse chat link is for the same purpose, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Open and parse are the same.
Yeah, this was created by me. I didn't know we already had async storage get item and async storage set item. I created one file and I added both setting and getting of the items in one itself. It is similar, it's pretty much same thing. So I have used it. Later on, I saw that we already had async storage get item and async storage set item. So
that's fine. I mean, we can move into them into some folder which can be called the cache or something, and then you and Misha can decide which one to get rid of, which one to keep. You know, right now it's more important to do the formatting. If we have something like extra, that's fine. If it doesn't break the system, we can always get rid of it later.
Yeah. So another one is social login handle. So what this does is basically there will be this one function which will decide whether it's Facebook login, Facebook. We have to do Facebook login, Google or Apple login. So yeah, if you want, I can describe it more. I mean, each and everything.
Yeah, no, I think it's clear for us. So again, we'll probably need to move this into login folder.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And that's all about helpers, right?
Yeah.
So what happened to the Xmpp? What was the name of the Xmpp stuff? You moved it. So is it all the thing that you described before this, or is there anything else about Xmpp? Because I think we used to have Xmpp central in the helper.
Yeah. Now it is inside one of the stores. I'll explain what stores is in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be useful. So can you go through that?
Yeah. So like we had mentioned earlier, we have introduced mobx. We have basically replaced redux with mobx. So so stores are basically, like the name suggests, it is store. It is a store. It will have global variables that is used across different components. So I think you remember the need for redux. It was because so I'll just continue. So we have multiple stores for each feature. This the same way. So account will have account store. Accounts section will have account store. The API will have its own API store. Similarly, chat, debug store, and these things. So basically, I'll just explain the chat store because it has the Xmpp central too. I'll explain it in one go. So if you see here, this store will have basically that any the variables that we are going to use across the application inside it defined, and all the functions, the actions which changes these variables. That is, for example, let me just give a Okay, so for example, there is an update in rooms information file. That is, for example, any room name has changed, or maybe the priority has changed, or maybe, for example, the participant has changed. So this particular function, it is called action in regards with mobx, also in regards with redux 2. So what it will do is it will change this particular room info, and that is the main variable of the store that we have. So yeah. So similarly, you had mentioned about the Xmpp central file. So Xmpp central file basically had two main things. One was two main component functions. One function was to connect the Xmpp, connect to the Xmpp server, and the next function was to create listeners. That is, any response received from the Xmpp will be listened and acted accordingly. Any logic can be written accordingly. So the Xmpp listener file is inside this chat store. This is the right place. Mike had moved it inside this. This is the right place because chat store, as the name, as it suggests, that it is related to chats. So, and Xmpp is also related to chats. So having the listener and connection inside the chat store was, I think, the obvious thing. So yeah. So Xmpp, so chat store will have Xmpp listener, and it will have all these conditions, and also Xmpp.
So guys, we obviously we know that Xmpp is like important. So we have lots of like traffic flying around in the Xmpp format, and all these like listeners and the caching of the chats is important. Having like parsing like custom chat messages is very important because we might have we already have like a number of custom like messages. Like for example, when we send coins, we display that separately. Obviously, it's like a technical message. Or when we now work on the chatbot, so Anton works on that, and we are going to display like some actions by chatbots in like a service message. So it's a different, so we have different data payloads which identify different types of Xmpp messages, which in the UI and in sometimes in the functionality we need to display differently. So Xmpp listeners and like the whole tree or like hierarchy of those like logic around catching different Xmpp things is very important. But also hugely important is the speed, the reliability of how this works, for it all to be like asynchronous, to not overload, like in terms of at the networking level, at the UI level, at the any sort of like storage levels, not to overload the app. So what are your thoughts? And we use Xmpp for like part of signaling, and Misha works on the video calls and the parallel and stuff like that. So what do you think? Do you have any suggestions, or have you done any improvements, or what do you think we need to improve potentially in this part of the things?
Yeah. So as you have seen the latest build, or even the Habla, if you had noticed that the chats loads faster than previously. So this particular functional change that we had created, that we had done, it has improved a lot. And so I think this is what we can do from the client side. I mean, there can be more minor optimizations that we can do in each of the functions that we have created to like accept the chats and display it and all those things. Other the changes that we can do is if we are able to get information in a bunch rather than in one. I know it's difficult to create plugins and stuff, but I think that's what we can do in currently. That's, I think, the better, much more productive improvement that we can do. other than this that we have right now.
So obviously, yeah, we have server-side improvements and we have client-side improvements. And server-side, we don't do much changes to like the Xmpp standard and the core and like a Jabber server and stuff like that. But we do plugins, and then we are able to so through our API or through plugins to provide stuff in the way that we prefer. So for example, if needed, we can return chat history through JSON API as opposed to getting it directly from Xmpp. If some stuff like that is faster, then we can use it. We can work with gzipping, and whatever was another format for archiving and compressing the traffic and all stuff like that. So I understand that, but mainly on this call, I think we focus on the client side improvements. So it's great to know that this version already includes those asynchronous latest improvements in there. But to me it feels like we still have some work to do and still potentially lots of improvements. And as much caching as we can do in the chats, in the Xmpp part of the things, let's do it. I mean, let's plan it, let's put it in the roadmap. Caching is very important. Everything that has been sent in the past, in most cases, it will stay. So it makes sense to cache stuff and chat history and things like that, because it just saves traffic and makes the experience much better for the users.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So yeah, I was on stores, I guess. Yeah. So basically stores, I mentioned, is store, like the name suggests, and it is a part of mobx. And so this will have all the actions that changes the values inside store. And also it will have the good thing about mobx is that whenever, for example, previously in Redux, what happens was there was a store. We used to change things inside store, and whenever these changes were done, we had to rely on React's lifecycle method, the previous lifecycle method, or maybe even the hooks, which returns the. We have to compare the changes if there are any, and if there are any changes, only then update the local state and re-render the whole screen. So in previously, if you missed anything, if you don't properly match the comparison, then it would randomly, even though it is not required, it can update, re-render the the whole screen again, the component again, which is not ideal. I mean, it is not at all performant, because randomly, even if we don't require, it updates sometimes. So that was one of the drawbacks that Redux had. So if you see mobx, what mobx says is that whenever there is any changes inside the store, we know that changes has to be reflected everywhere. There won't be any that, even if there is, it would be like maybe 10% of the chances that we don't want to have those changes. So whenever those scenarios appear, we just have to add one condition and we are done with it. So 90% of the time, I don't have to add that extra code that is okay, listen to those changes and then check if there are any changes and then update it. That code is taken care of by mobx itself. Another thing is that the readability and syntax that we use with mobx. It is one of the major issues with Redux was that whenever we had any new that is state or store, state inside store that we had to create, any new feature we have to implement, the configuration that we had to do was every time it was a bit longer process. That is, we had to create the action, we have to create reducer, we have to create a constant, and then finally we have to even make, like I mentioned before, we have to add the function that will check if there is any changes, and only then update the whole render. And these things were involved with Redux. So this was these things could have been automated by Redux, but mobx has done it already. I mean, because it was obvious that we needed those changes to happen. So mobx has those features, better feature. So
perfect. Okay, yeah. That's great explanation. Thank you, Vineet.
Yeah, thank you. I think mobx and store. And another thing is that if you see with Redux, we had to create separate files for the actions for reduce. I mean, we could have done it in the same, but it was very confusing. So we had to separate. We had to have separate files for it, which was also a cumbersome thing. With mobx, that's not the case. We just have to create a class, and we just had to create a class, and the initial state that it will have, and all the actions that we need. It's just simple JavaScript function. If you see, it's nothing else. It's just simple class which will have a constructor, and it will have appropriate function. So which can be, I mean, so the learning curve is also very low as compared to Redux. So yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's good to hear. That's exactly what we need.
Yeah.